Imagine this. You're sitting across from a friend who's venting about their toxic relationship. Their partner belittles them, ignores their needs, and takes advantage of their kindness. You can see the pain in their eyes, the exhaustion in their posture. Every fiber of your being wants to scream, "Leave now!" But instead, you smile softly and say, "Maybe they didn't mean it that way." Because you don't want to hurt their feelings, because you don't want to seem harsh, because above all, you want to be nice. Here's the unsettling truth. Your niceness just became an accomplice to their suffering. The paradox of the good person. This is the silent epidemic of modern morality. We've been taught that kindness means never causing discomfort to ourselves or others. That being a good person requires endless patience, infinite understanding, and the suppression of anything that might rock the boat. But consider the contradiction. You swallow your truth to spare others' feelings, but resentment grows like a tumor in your chest. You say yes when you mean no, and wonder why people treat your boundaries as optional. You tolerate cruelty under the guise of compassion, while the world grows darker by your silence. This isn't kindness. It's moral cowardice disguised as virtue. Forced in the machine. Ask yourself, when was the last time you bit your tongue to keep the peace? What truths have you buried because they might make someone uncomfortable? How much of your niceness is actually fear, of conflict, of rejection, of being seen as difficult? Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of ourselves we disown because they don't fit our ideal self-image. For the chronically nice, the shadow isn't anger or selfishness. It's the terrifying capacity to say no. And here's what no one tells you. The more you suppress your boundaries, the more they erupt in passive aggression, health issues, and secret bitterness. The cultural conspiracy. We've built a world that rewards false niceness. Social media algorithms favor pleasant lies over uncomfortable truths. Workplaces promote agreeable sycophants over honest thinkers. Romantic partners often prefer doormats over equals. Even our language betrays us. We call women bossy for leading and men assholes for setting boundaries. The message is clear. Stay sweet, stay small, stay silent. The fork in the road. This is where most self-help advice fails. They tell you to be more assertive, as if it's a skill to learn. But the problem isn't technique, it's identity. You don't struggle to set boundaries because you don't know how. You struggle because part of you believes, if I'm not endlessly accommodating, I'm unlovable. That's the real issue hiding behind your smile, not a lack of confidence, a crisis of worthiness. So the question isn't, how can I be nicer, but rather, what would it cost me to stop betraying myself in the name of kindness? The tyranny of the good person mask. Beneath every compulsive act of niceness lies a silent scream, the terror of being truly seen. We wear the good person persona like armor, not realizing it's the very thing keeping us from authentic connection. Friedrich Nietzsche saw through this centuries ago. The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. This is the first psychological trap. We confuse agreement for virtue. The childhood wound. For most chronic people-pleasers, the pattern began early. The parent who only praised you when you were quiet and compliant, the teacher who rewarded obedience over curiosity, the playground politics where nice meant safe and difficult, meant ostracized your nervous system, learned a dangerous equation. Being fully myself, danger, performing goodness, survival. The existential dilemma. Jean-Paul Sartre identified the core tension. Hell is other people. But he didn't mean others are inherently toxic. He meant we torture ourselves, trying to control their perceptions of us. Every time you laugh at an offensive joke to avoid awkwardness, swallow criticism to prevent conflict. Say I'm fine when you're drowning, you're not being kind. You're negotiating for safety at the cost of your soul. The neurological betrayal brain scans reveal the hidden cost. Amygdala hijacking. When you suppress your truth, your threat detection system stays perpetually activated, flooding your body with stress hormones. Mirror neuron warfare. Your brain automatically mimics others' emotions. Constant emotional labor, faking smiles, suppressing anger, creates neural exhaustion. Dopamine paradox. You get temporary relief when people approve of your niceness, reinforcing the addiction to approval-seeking. The cultural gaslighting society pathologizes healthy selfishness while rewarding pathological altruism. The martyr complex, celebrating those who sacrifice themselves until they collapse, then calling them heroes instead of victims. Spiritual bypassing, using faux enlightened platitudes, just be loving, to avoid necessary conflict, the likability trap. Especially for women and minorities, where survival often depends on performing non-threatening pleasantness, the core realization, chronic niceness isn't tea-kindness. It is a sophisticated defense mechanism against the terrifying freedom of being fully human. The question isn't, why am I like this, but rather, what ancient survival strategy am I still obeying that no longer serves me? The slow poison of self-betrayal. You don't notice the erosion at first. A suppressed opinion here, a swallowed protest there, small surrenders that seem harmless in isolation. But like carbon monoxide, the cumulative effect is deadly. Your body keeps score. Chronic people-pleasers develop unexplained chronic pain, the physical manifestation of unexpressed boundaries. Autoimmune disorders, the immune system attacking the self just as the psyche does. Mysterious fatigue, the exhaustion of maintaining a false persona. The mind-body connection isn't metaphorical. When you systematically deny your truth, your biology rebels. The relationship paradox. Here's the cruel irony. The more you prioritize others' comfort, the shallower your connections become. Partners never meet the real you, just your carefully managed performance. Friends subconsciously disrespect your time because you've trained them to. Colleagues take credit for your ideas, recognizing you won't protest. Worst of all, you attract emotional vampires, people who instinctively sense your inability to say no. The creativity massacre. Original thought requires the courage to disagree, be misunderstood, risk disapproval. When you compulsively seek harmony, you murder your most innovative ideas in their cradle. History's greatest breakthroughs came from those willing to be difficult. Galileo, Van Gogh, Turing. Your niceness isn't virtuous. It's complicit in your own mental stagnation. The generational curse children learn what they live. Your daughter watches you tolerate disrespect and learns this is how women should be treated. Your son sees you swallow anger and learns emotions are dangerous. Your employees witness your avoidance of tough decisions and inherit your leadership cowardice. The cost compounds exponentially. Your silence today becomes someone else's prison tomorrow. The spiritual bankruptcy. All major wisdom traditions agree. True kindness requires fierce truth. Buddhist monks practice loving speech and radical honesty. Jesus drove money changers from the temple. The Tao Te Ching warns, kindness without truth is not kindness at all. Your niceness isn't spiritual advancement, it's spiritual bypassing. A cheap imitation of enlightenment that avoids the messy work of actual growth. The turning point. But within these consequences lies an unexpected gift. Your resentment is a compass. That simmering anger when people take advantage, that's not a flaw. It's your psyche's last-ditch effort to save you. Every time you feel used, your soul is screaming. Notice where you're betraying yourself. The question becomes, will you keep numbing these signals with more niceness? Or will you finally listen to what they're trying to tell you? The myth of the good person. The first revolutionary act is this: stop trying to be good, not because you should be cruel, but because goodness, as you've defined it, is a cage. The morally mature person isn't endlessly agreeable. They're appropriately assertive, strategically confrontational, and wisely selfish. Nietzsche saw this clearly. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Strategy 1. The 5% rule. You don't need to transform overnight. Start with micro-rebellions. At dinner, when asked, "Where should we eat?" don't default to "I don't mind." Express an actual preference in conversation. Allow 5 seconds of uncomfortable silence rather than rushing to fill it. At work, say, "Let me think about that," instead of an automatic "yes." These tiny acts rewire your nervous system's fear response. Strategy 2. Anger as ally. Your suppressed rage isn't dangerous, it's data. Try this. Keep an injustice log for 1 week. Note every time you feel resentment, someone cutting in line, a colleague interrupting you. Then ask, where else in my life does this pattern appear? You'll discover your anger has been trying to show you your boundaries all along. Strategy 3. The no laboratory practice refusal in low-stakes environments. Return an unnecessary upsell with "no thank you." When a telemarketer calls, say "not interested" and hang up at a store. Ask to try something on even if you don't plan to buy it. This builds your no muscles without existential stakes. Strategy 4. The cost-benefit flip. When tempted to people-please, ask, what's the cost of saying yes, and who actually pays it? That extra work project your family pays with your absence, that toxic friend's drama, your mental health pays the price, that fake smile, your authenticity is the casualty. Suddenly, selfishness becomes moral responsibility. Strategy 5. The 3-question filter. Before agreeing to anything, ask, is this aligned with my core values? Am I acting from fear or integrity? Will future me present me for this choice? This creates space between stimulus and response. Frankl's freedom to choose. The deeper shift. These tactics work because they address the root issue. You've been outsourcing your self-worth to others' opinions. True rebellion isn't about becoming rude. It is about transferring your moral compass from external approval to internal integrity. As Jung warned, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, because once you do, no one can threaten you with disapproval ever again. The lie we've been sold all along. We've misunderstood kindness. We thought it meant never disappointing anyone, absorbing others' pain, keeping the peace at all costs. But true kindness is far more radical and far more demanding. The paradox of boundaries. Here's the counterintuitive truth. The most loving act is often to disappoint someone now rather than resent them later. When you say no to a favor you'll resent, refuse to enable destructive behavior, decline to participate in your own mistreatment, you're not being unkind. You're giving the gift of clarity about who you are and what you'll tolerate. The mirror principle. Your relationships mirror your self-respect. The more you tolerate disrespect, the more others will disrespect you. The more you abandon yourself, the more others will abandon you too. The more you pretend to be nice, the more you attract people who prefer your facade. As psychologist Alice Miller observed, the truth about our childhood is stored up in our body, and although we can repress it, we can never alter it. Our intellect can be deceived, our feelings manipulated, our perceptions confused, and our body tricked with medication, but someday the body will present its bill. The spiritual reckoning. All authentic spiritual traditions agree. Buddhism's right speech requires truth before harmony. Christianity's turn the other cheek was never about tolerating abuse. Stoicism teaches that true goodness requires courage. Your niceness was never virtue, it was fear dressed in moral clothing. The final realization: stand before the mirror tonight and ask, Who would I be if I stopped performing goodness and started embodying integrity? Not the sanitized, socially approved version of you, not the people-pleasing automaton, but the messy, magnificent, inconvenient human who says no when no is true, takes space when space is needed, demands respect because they finally respect themselves. This is the great paradox. The kindest thing you can do for the world is to stop sacrificing yourself to it, because only when you're fully alive can you truly serve others. Only when you honor your boundaries can you offer authentic connection. Only when you stop being nice can you become good. The rebellion ends here, not with a bang, but with a quiet exhale. The mask drops. The real work begins.